Hey YouTube, Robbie coming to you guys here with an old format deck profile. I know I haven't done a lot of videos recently and I apologize for that. But I thought I would, start doing some old videos for you guys again. So I'm going to be doing a lot more of them more frequently. You'll probably see them over the next couple of days. I'll be posting one a day. But going to go with an old format that I find true, near, and dear to my heart, and that is Edison format. So we're gonna go with the deck from the event, Shonen Jump Edison, and that was before the YCS series. Awesome event. I went there, played a deck kind of similar to this, but it was really bad. And that's just Jeff Jones' QuickDraw Dandywarrior deck. So I'm just going to lay out a little bit of it, and then we'll talk about it. So this is his list card for card. So here's your plant QuickDraw engine, however you want to think about it. Let me see if I can get a little more lighting in here for you guys. What is that coming from? Not sure. Well, okay. So you have two of these, two of these, two of these, two of these, and one of her. So these being Titanial, Lone Fire, Debris. These cards are all just really solid. If you opened these three, it was Drill Warrior Stardust with some tokens, which was just really strong to do at the start of the format, or start of the turn. This is just insane. A lot of these cards generate a lot of advantage, and I'll get into Drill Warrior in a little bit with the extra deck and why he was really important. There are a lot of other cool things these things could do together, like the tokens from Dandy can be used for Titanial. You can just nuke the field with Debris getting Black Rose, leaving some tokens for you. These cards are all just really strong, generating advantage and just everything. Next is 2 Caius and 1 Lad. Lad's really good at slowing the tempo down on your own basis, where you can kind of accrue more cards, and he can bring back another card like Titanial when this dies, and just this card's really good. And then Caius is just another butter card. One of the best cards of the format was Super Nimble Mega Hamster. This format is very slow when it comes to setting monsters, and there's a lot of times where you're set a monster pass, and you're not sure what that monster could be. This was one of the main examples, which it got Raikou mostly. There are some other cards it could get, which this deck doesn't play, but the other set monster you could run into is a Raikou, and there's some other that are in other decks that will come across, but this is the main, 2 of the main monsters that you can find this format being set. They're just really good cards in general. 1 Card Trooper. While this deck does not want to mill often, this card is just really good. Standalone, you can hit maybe the random Dandy, but really this is just fuel for Pot of Avarice. This card's just really solid. And then the other monsters that was played in his deck are kind of random other ones. Sangan, clearly, because it literally searches everything in the deck except Caius and Lad. Technically it gets Titanial because it gets Lone Fire, which then gets Titanial. So this can search almost everything in the deck. Sangan's just a really powerful card this format entirely. 1 Night Assailant. With Drill Warrior discarding him, this card can get you back any other flip effect monster, being Hamster, Raikou, or the next card. So it's really good just to have him as that's the reason why. And this card also works with Morphing Jar. So this deck does play a lot of trap cards, and this format's really slow where a lot of trap cards are really good. And your deck building really came down to your traps and the way you played your deck. So this card was just really good for recruiting advantage and getting your best card in the deck live, which this deck played 3 Pot of Avarice. Didn't seem that crazy back then. This card wasn't the greatest card for a while, but this was the first time you really got to see this card shine, and really become almost a staple in a lot of decks. A lot of the cards I'm going to be doing in these deck profiles are what I quote-unquote the staples. So that would be MST Heavy, Brain Control. Those are some of the staple spells. There's a couple of other ones here and there. And then we've got Foolish and 2 Book of Moon. So not really many other staples there for this deck because it played a little more traps instead. Then we have our staple traps, which normally consisted of these traps right here. Sometimes people elected not to run Starlight Road or Trap Dash Shoot, but Trap Dash Shoot is such a good card. And then other cards that were really staple in this format are Deep Prisons, Bottomlesses, and Dust Tornado. These cards are all just really good. Stardust was a really big problem in this format, so like that's why this card is really strong. You don't want to trigger your opponent's Starlight Road, so Dust Tornado is really good in that sense where it's okay. So you try to avoid triggering your opponent's Starlight Road or like their Stardust in general. And then one Call the Haunted just to like recur Titanial or other cards you need. And then with the extra deck, I'm actually going to be doing extra decks this time around as opposed to my old videos. I really didn't go into them too often. So we'll go with the most two important monsters in the extra deck first, which is 2 Drill Warrior and 3 Stardust Dragon. So this card was just a really good, strong card in general. It stopped the Raikou. It was big. Really a lot of this format deck building was warped around this card. You could see examples where people almost didn't play other cards for reasons because of this card. Like, you didn't want to run into your opponent's Stardust when you draw Dust Tornado or Heavy Storm, for example. So this card was just kind of like really strong in that aspect of like it warps the format. And then this card, I single-handedly won so many games playing this format where I was down an advantage just because of this card. This card, pitch a monster, banish it, or pitch a card really, and then during the standby phase he comes back and he adds a monster back to the hand. So with this card, there are a couple of really cool things about that to know. Its other effect is he can half himself and attack directly that turn. So one, having priority, you can do that, got around Bottomless Trap Hole entirely. 2, the add back from Graveyard stopped him from getting Bottomless as well. And that was how it was ruled during the event. So clearly things may have changed since then, and the way this card works is different now. The only ruling I can't quite remember this with is with Royal Oppression. I think he's kind of like nowadays where Omega can't come back because of Rivalry of Goes in match. He just goes straight to the graveyard. I'm not 100% sure that ruling because that didn't really come up too often back in the day for me. But this card lets you net a lot of advantage because you don't have to do much when you're in control of him. You can just special him back, get the Dandy, banish him, discard the Dandy, get 2 tokens. Pass turn. Your opponent now has to deal with 2 tokens. Your Drill Warrior comes back, you get Dandy, repeat. There's a lot of times where you can just win the game because of that, and then once you stop needing Dandy because they can't run over your Dandelions that often or at a speed fast enough, you can start actually doing other things like tributing for Caius, doing other synchro plays with QuickDraw and the other extra deck monsters. Really, I want to emphasize this a lot. Drill Warrior was the hardest card to play this format because he was not a monster to attack with. Like, as you can see in the traps, there was Mirror Force and Deep Prisons. If you lost this card because of that, you could almost lose the game. So a lot of the times when I'm playing this format, a lot of people are really greedy with Drill Warrior. Or if you attack into a set Raikou and he dies, you can just lose because of that. A lot of the time you'll attack directly, where you don't need to, but it's the best route. This card is really just a more focalized on the point where he is used for utility. There's not a reason why to attack with him unless you need to. The rest of the extra deck we'll get into. You have your debris targets that weren't Stardust, which are 2 Ancient or Iron Chain Dragons. This was your 6-star to go into. This card was not out yet, so we could not make Orient Dragon off Raikou. Debris Dragon, Trishula was not out yet, so you couldn't do any cool combos with that. So these were the other 2 like 6-stars you can make. The 2 7-stars you can make are Black Rose and Ancient Fairy. Black Rose is limited to 1 for this format, so that kind of hurt that. And then you have Red Dragon Archfiend. And then a couple other cards you played are Brionic and Allied Justice Cataster. These were a little harder to make in the deck because you would had to have used some other monster and some other means, be it brain control. But these cards are just solid cards in general. And then the other quick draw targets for it are Nitro Warrior, because he can actually input a lot of damage. Turbo Warrior was really good in the mirror match of Synchros, so he could take down opposing Stardust, and he can't be targeted by Raikos. And then Junk Archer, it kind of just like Farfuzz a monster away with himself and then comes back. So it's a cool card, and the concept of it is really nice. But that is the extra deck. For future videos and other videos for this type of stuff, guys, I will be going over the extra deck a little faster. But I thought for at least this deck, I would go over it slowly with you guys. I have a lot of Edison decks, so there'll be a lot of content for you guys in the next couple of days. So I hope you enjoy, and stay safe.